Welcome to another episode of Sober on a Drunk Planet podcast. And today I've got Anthony, who kindly had me on his podcast, the Revamp and Rebuild. Hopefully, I've got that the right way round. It's quite
Yeah, you
difficult
smashed
to
it.
say. We did that the other week, and yeah, it was just good to chat. And he's coming up to 14 weeks sober now. So again, different to other guests, it's good to see his reasons why, what brought him to that decision, and just have a general chat and just see where it goes. So, welcome, Anthony. How you doing? How's your week been?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. And my week is going, to be honest, like pretty good. It's been fast as usual. I don't like it gets like Monday, Tuesday seems slow, like a lot of people I think, and then it's just suddenly right, it's the weekend. So literally turn around and it's there. But yeah, no, it's been a good week. Can't complain. Can't complain at
Nice.
all. Happy that
Um,
it's warmer now.
yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. We were saying before we came on, like I suffer. I do. I think I generally do suffer with seasonal depression,
Yeah.
because I just hate winter. I love the sun. I'm a sun worshipper. I'll be out in it all day, every day, probably playing golf. Um, but I think I've noticed more in sobriety that is, yeah, something that gives me more energy is being out in warm, sunny places. Which, to be honest, I think most people are better, but there are some. Like my other half, she prefers autumn and spring because it's not too
What
hot.
the two in between ones?
Yeah, it's not too hot. It's not too cold. Um, it's just about right, I think.
Yeah, well, like,
Uh,
the Goldilocks effect, eh? But it's kind of like, well, I mean, that's fair enough. I do get that, but I think a lot of people are the same, particularly in the winter, whether they're like attuned to it or not. I just feel like that everything it shouldn't make as much of a difference as it does. I always think, but it's like you can't not be in a good mood if you wake up and it's like sunny and warm, as opposed
yeah,
to being
and
freezing and
even
grey.
yeah, like the medical advice I think from NHS or whoever it is says that everyone in Britain should take vitamin D tablets because we just don't get enough of it in the winter months. But even taking a vitamin D supplement every day, it doesn't beat proper sunshine and being out in nice warm weather.
No,
Um,
hopefully,
so
hopefully that will return this summer.
let's hope so. I don't think I could do two. I don't
We
think I
live in
could do
hope.
a year long British winter. That's for sure.
Uh,
So just give us a bit of a background then in terms of where you're based, what life was like growing up, anything potentially traumatic, and then sort of bring us up to modern day. What was the deciding point for you to get sober? And then we'll just talk around how you found your first 14 weeks.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, like, thank you again for having me on. I think so. Oh, well, I'll start with where I live. I'm from Cambridge originally, and that's where I've moved back to. I was living in London for the last couple of years. I'll get to that bit later. That will kind of just play into my story, so to speak. Like, obviously, like went to school in Cambridge. I think, in terms of like traumatic events, if I'm honest, like I was someone who was bullied at school, and that to no like real great degree, I think that's a lot of something that a lot of kids go through, and it shouldn't be normalized, but I think it is. And it's one of those things I think that's definitely like shaped my identity and shapes a lot of the decisions that I've made when I'm older. It's not since I've, to be honest, I've done therapy and these kind of bits and pieces that I've really got into tune with where some of my beliefs come from, and the like opinion that I've had of myself, because the opinion that I've had as myself is not necessarily what I would like portray to the world, if that makes sense. A lot of times, like, when I speak to my like friends or whatever about certain things or like insecurities, whatever that I have, I feel like just going to be raw and honest on here. Then they can't like quite believe or piece together. But I think a lot of that does come from childhood, which might then explain the issues that I've had with alcohol and drugs as I've grown up, because it's trying to fill that void and trying to not. It was a way of numbing any kind of emotion with
I,
that.
I, I think it's important to sort of highlight as well that I got bullied at school, but I unconditioned myself because of a generational thing with my parents and the people around me at the time. It was very much just pull your socks up and get on with it. I was unfortunate that my real surname is Sean Gay. So, and people always say, "Oh, what did you have an E on the end of it?" I'm like, it doesn't make any fucking difference. I still endured, to be honest, people still take the piss now, but my that was why it's quite nice to have an author name under Sean Alexander, which is my middle name. So a bit of respite, but all that verbal abuse I had every day, every day since probably the age of 7, and that has had a massive impact on the reasons why I drink and drug too much. That is all the social anxiety that I had as a kid, being numbed by lots of alcohol. So when I walk into a pub, all these voices of what people think about me start playing up, and then the alcohol and the drugs were just used as a numbing agent, really. So I could be on a similar level to other people without anxiety and all those things of thinking, oh, I was always a fat fucker as well. So I always got bullied for that. It is a bit like, we'll come on to the reasons why you got bullied or why you thought you got bullied. But my situation was a bit like Fat Bastard out of Austin Powers, where I'm depressed because I'm fat. Yeah, I'm depressed because I'm fat, and I'm fat because I'm depressed. So I was in that sort of horrible cycle as a kid. But it is difficult. I had
Did you think there was a way out from it at the time, out of interest? Because it can be very easy just to think that you're.
No, you know what? The situation was difficult. Mum and Dad grew up when the surname meant happy, and they didn't really see the problem with it. I'd come home crying and stuff, and I dropped plenty of hints to say, "Please, can I change the surname? This is killing me." But they never did anything. They just said, "Get on with it." And I think that
just that there isn't giving you the kind of space that you might have needed right at the time.
Yeah, I think sometimes my parents have been shaped by their parents, and I'm not laying blame on anything. It's happened. It is what it is. Like, there's no energy being wasted on what could have happened. But yeah, I think that's where more probably emotionally mature sense to see that your son's crying all the time. It's obviously upsetting them. Then maybe take more action on trying to help them through it rather than just say pull your socks up. So that then transfers into older adult age as well. So with your bullying then, how did that sort of manifest itself? Because I think it's good to explain how these things happen rather than just saying bullying, because it's a very broad spectrum. How was it for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a really good question. No one's ever really asked me that before. I think it was because like I came to school, I had like I looked very different. I did piss out taking up for my appearance a lot. I was called like ugly and all this kind of stuff, which again, like a lot of people do it, but I looked a bit funny. To be fair, like looking back, I had like a massive mushroom kind of head, mushroom hair, which obviously doesn't help things. And then I think I was always kind of like the butt of a lot of jokes, and I never thought I'd be good enough, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I'd always, yeah. So and I wasn't good at sport, so that got the piss taken out of a little bit as well, quite a lot. And then I was just in that kind of headspace where I was always just kind of like the worst one. And then I actually think that made me not try at certain stuff, because I was like, oh well, there's no point trying, because either way I'm going to get the piss taken out of me. And so that was a not great thing that happened. And then I think just in general, I mean, that was probably the main thing, but then also obviously that then filtered out into different areas of life, and made me not take action on stuff. Just like recounting this now is making me feel a little bit strange, because that might not seem like kind of much, but those kind of things just would get imprinted on your brain when you're younger, right?
Yeah, like the early years of the impressionable years, I think they say that your brain's 90% developed by the age of 5 or 7 or whatever it is.
That's mad.
And you take those thought processes subconsciously into adult life. So it's not difficult to see why, when we have been bullied, that you then drink and drug to sort of take away those thought processes, which is done at a subconscious level. So it's not like you're walking into a pub going, oh my God, everyone's staring at me necessarily. Sometimes you might do, but it is much more of a subconscious thing in my experience anyway. So how
it definitely is, and it's harder to get it out or like to see the other side of it. Because for me personally, like, in my life, as an adult, when I would share something like my vulnerability, like people go, "Oh no, that's not true," but and kind of consciously, I knew it was true, but emotionally, it was still there because it was just a way that like your nervous system is always gonna, your ego in a way is always going to try and protect you. Like if you have a thought that you believe in, or you have that belief, like which as you can say, is subconscious, not even aware of it or when it formed, you're like subconscious will always look for things in the world that confirm it, that that's true. So every time that something happens, so for me, if I felt I wasn't good enough or whatever, every time that something would happen in life, which it happens to everyone, like rejection, or I had like a massive fear of rejection, then that would just be like my head going like, oh yeah, I knew I wasn't good enough, rather than looking at it from a more positive perspective.
And it's crazy how that can, without doing the work. So like we'll touch on it a bit because you mentioned that you've done therapy and stuff, but people will go their entire lives without actually diving deep into those things and trying to understand why they act the way they act. They might be in a group of people that drink and drug all the time, and that might last their entire lives. And
And
they'll
you can't
just
skip that bit. I don't think
no,
it can't be skipped. Like this, the world we live in now. It's like Amazon. Like Amazon got. I ordered something last night and it's already come. Amazon just that instant gratification. It's like I don't need it that quickly, but it's kind of like it is the way. And everyone, I'm not saying people looking for a shortcut, of course, but I probably was in terms of like, or I wasn't necessarily. Maybe I was scared of it. Maybe I was scared of what I'd find. Maybe I didn't think I'd need it. Maybe I didn't think that. I think particularly with therapy, like you said, you often think, or I often think, I should say, that you only need that if you're kind of rock bottom, which I was at, and that had been multiple times. But for certain things, I was like, oh, I can kind of get over this. It's like similar attitude maybe that your parents had. You just kind of got on with it. Whereas actually, like, you can't really, if you don't necessarily address those things, they're always going to come and sabotage you in
yeah,
some way.
that's exactly it. And I think that awareness as well is something that you've now got and you can take in to everything you do. So in terms of then growing up from school, what happened? Did you go to sixth form, university, anything like that? Or did you go straight into work?
I went to sixth form and then I went to university, and that's when I think a lot of my, like most people, probably a lot of my issues really started. Just like all that freedom.
It's like an incubator for the
Yeah,
slightly traumatized, isn't it?
yeah, it's mad. I mean, I had a great time to be honest with you, but it's like it was just so much. This social anxiety that I experienced at uni, which I think everyone who's listened to this who's been an undergrad student will relate to. It's like you're in a whole new city. It's a whole new different thing. You live away from home. You're meeting all these new people, and certainly I thought that the alcohol and the drugs were an easy way for me just not to feel that anxiety, at least in the moment. Don't get me wrong, when you wake up, it's obviously way worse. But in terms of as an 18-year-old guy, it's like I thought that I needed that to be social and to go into those scenarios. And we're still told that as adults, right? You say it in your book. It's like any event, Christmas, funerals, birthdays. It's always drinking, and certainly I think that played a big role. But in terms of during those years, that's when I kind of really realized that I would had like a lot like mental health kind of issues. I came more aware, just that a little bit more mature. When you're at school, you just got like kind of just you can live your own bubble at school. I did certainly anyway. You go to classes, you play sport, you do your exams, you see people like you're that's kind of full on all the time. As uni, I had more free times and more time with my thoughts, with myself. I did more time. That's when I felt the most alone and most lost. Even though I was fortunate, I had like a great group of mates at uni and stuff. So like on the outside, things were going great. I was holding myself together just about with my degree, and all the rest of it. So on the outside, it was good, but on the inside, I was like in a lot of trouble. I felt lost. I felt directionless, and I was just starting to have these like panic and anxiety attacks. I'd never had a panic attack before, but having like one of those for the first time was completely nuts. And I still don't quite know why it happened, but it was pretty. I think that's when I started to realize that things weren't necessarily right, but I didn't want to say anything because like I'm a man, and back then I was like, yeah.
It's funny actually thinking back to university. Like I always thought I had a problem with my throat, and I went and had loads of X-rays and stuff. But actually, tracking back now, knowing it's a psychological thing. I used to get that at university in lecture halls, and it was very much anxiety. I think it was bordering on panic attacks.
Yeah.
I've never had a panic attack touch wood. Hopefully never
Touch wood.
will. But I know people that have had. My missus has had them, and they're really scary. But I think just being in that big room with lots of people, having my own inner monologue was very. It's similar to yours by the sound of it. I was always my harshest critic and never thought I was good at anything. And yeah, I think those
It's
situations.
a really hard place to live there.
Yeah, and you know what? I think the booze numbed everything, even at university. So I think whatever mental health problems I had those from a very young age, but they were always being suppressed. I think food addiction for me was the thing that I went to when I was young, which moved into drink and drugs. I remember throwing up pretty much every night at university because I drank too much. I mean, looking back at it, throwing up every night for the first year, we went out 365 days.
What?
Um,
That's
yeah,
impressive.
crazy. But the thing is, like, you wear it like a badge of honor. But I almost got chucked out of university.
What happened?
Put loads of weight on, ate shitloads of pizzas. You could get like 2 large pizzas for £7. It was crazy.
It's just asking for trouble, that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just sort of come out of university, and then what happened after university then?
So after university, I went straight into a job which was just completely not right for me. It was like in sales. I'd basically, embarrassed to say this now, I became pretty obsessed with that film, The Wolf of Wall Street. And I was like, I'm not saying I would want to be like that guy, but he did make the selling on the phone thing seem like a little bit appealing. And then this was just how lost I was, right? Like I didn't know what I did, done a degree in geography, and I went to do a master's in business management. Obviously, loads of student loans, all that. I think I just did the masters because I didn't want to go in the real world. And I thought, okay, you kind of know what I'm doing at uni. I think I was afraid. I think I was just afraid.
I think that's the only reason why people do masters, if I'm being honest. Because how can you actually, unless people after university go and work and then do a masters, but how can anyone, like, it's only in the last few years that I've really started to know my own direction, but it's taken me 34 years to get there. So I think it's crazy that I think there's a lot of people that feel lost at various points in their life, but coming out of university, I think everyone's lost.
Yeah.
I mean, I just went straight into finance.
Unless you got honest. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I hated numbers, so it's bizarre that I went into finance and then struggled for 12 years doing that.
You're pretty successful at it, though, at least.
Yeah, I guess the way I look at it is I could have been more successful channeling my energies into something I was actually passionate about rather than sort of chasing the lifestyle of buy a house, get married, have 2 children, have a nice car, which I got. And then I was like, this is soulless.
Yeah.
I don't want any of that. So when you come out of university, you got your sales job. How was that? Was that booze focused, I'm guessing?
Well, I'd say so. I was just in a hole at that time. I was like going out every weekend, doing drugs every weekend, alcohol every weekend. I just didn't apply myself at all for that job. I got fired in 3 months. They didn't give me any training, but I would take full responsibility, obviously, for that. My head just wasn't in it. I think I was like, my head was. I think I was like had like something going on with personal relationships at that time, and it was just like I just felt really worthless. And then I got fired, and I was like, this is bad. Then I kind of just went off the rails a little bit, so to speak, which I think accumulated in me sleeping on the street after a football game, which was not great. I just I was like drunk so much, couldn't find my way home, and ended up. And then I somehow managed the next day. I slept in a park. I think it was in Chelsea or something. I don't know how the hell I got there. I think I was trying to get back to Clapham where I was living at the time. And then I lost a shoe, lost my wallet, and then I managed to get back to my mates in Brixton with one shoe. And then somehow because I lost my wallet, but someone handed it in to one of the Barclays banks so I can get it the next day. So it actually wasn't that bad. But obviously that was a bit of an alarm call for me. And then I kind of just chilled out with everything. Well, because you think you can control things. Then I went traveling for a bit. Don't know why I did that. That's a bad idea. I think when people say that, it's just kind of like you forget that you're the same person when you get there, and it's just
So yeah, Just to highlight that point, I think anyone who's potentially watching this, hopefully there's at least one. It's in AA. When I went to AA, it's the first time they mentioned doing a geographical. So it's going somewhere else, but still having all the same problems with you. Alcohol and
Quite
drugs
a cool
are
way of saying
everywhere.
it.
I went to Thailand to try and escape getting.
Bad place to go for escape for that.
Yeah, you know what? I picked Koh Samui, and I wasn't trying to pick it knowing that there were drugs there. I was trying to pick it because I thought there were no drugs there. But
Yeah,
how wrong I was.
yeah,
That's probably
I've
the
been
worst place I could have gone to try and escape my drug dealer. Anyway, run out of money, had to come back, and then had to face the consequences and ask my parents for the money. But I've forgotten where we are. This is a problem. I can talk too much.
no, it's fine. So you asked me what I was doing after uni. So I was in my sales job, then I went traveling
Yeah, so
a
sorry,
little bit.
traveling and sort of going elsewhere, but the problems are all still there. I mean,
Yeah,
it's crazy that we think that things might change, and this is why you get areas of Thailand where people go to find themselves. And I mean, come on, I mean, all you're going to do is go to a cesspit full of other people that are lost as fuck
yeah.
in Thailand, which is just a fucking playground for drink, drugs, and everything else.
Thailand is just a human playground, the whole thing. And it's so well set up for tourism, everything. The food's amazing, amazing beaches, like it's got everything. It's like an incredible country, but like in terms of what we were
It's
trying
lost
to do,
souls.
it's one of
Lost
the worst.
souls go to
Yeah, yeah,
Thailand.
yeah.
Especially if they're backpacking and you're like, okay. So you went traveling. Where did you go traveling? Thailand, I'm guessing.
That time, no, I went to Thailand when I was a bit younger, when I like the first year uni, just for a month. I was very lucky to do that. I went to South America, which again, it's a shocking place to go. It's similar type of vibe. Obviously, you can tell the what is in South America. So that didn't go well, and then that's when I had my first kind of like moment where I don't know if I tried to like um I basically got in trouble. Took too many like Valium, and I don't think I was trying to like you know end anything, but I think it was more cry for help type deal. So obviously that was a huge alarm call, just because I felt like just so like lost. I was like, I don't enjoy anything. I don't like doing anything. This is what like all the alcohol and drugs will eventually do to your brain, I think, because it just gets you into a point where you're in a state of perpetual anxiety. And bear in mind, I was anxious anyway. So I was in a state when it just nothing, I couldn't get joy in anything that I enjoyed doing at all. Like,
I think, like, to be honest, people always still try and skirt around saying sort of suicidal depression or whatever. But
yeah,
it is what it is. I mean, I was similar. I got to a point when forgot what year it was, but I was driving. I was drinking too much, and I was drink driving, and I've driven for 2.5 hours without remembering anything.
oh,
Um, and it's things like that. When I look back, I was thinking I probably was trying to kill myself, but I didn't manage it. So I think it's just more to highlight the point that people get to those positions. We're all different, and there's nothing wrong with it. But the good thing is you're alive and you're here.
yeah, no, for sure. And I am like, thank you for sharing that. That was, yeah, it was definitely like a hard moment. And then it was just that feeling of complete worthless and hopelessness and not seeing a way out. But luckily, I had some good mates with me, and I managed to get myself through that. Obviously get back to England, ran out of money, and then I was just in a state where I was like, okay, what can I do? I liked fitness, so basically then like retrained as a personal trainer. And that was the first time I was really in my life really like passionate about something. I thought, hey, I can actually do this. I like building relationships with people. I really enjoy my fitness. I think it's a route a lot of people take, and I've always like working with people and helping people, and I'm still a trainer today. But I went through a period then, we just fast forward loads, like did that all the way up until COVID. Really enjoyed it. It's fairly successful as a PT, working in a gym. Then obviously COVID happened. Gym closed. That created its own difficulties. Then I decided to move to London. Bad place for me to be, and that's when I just really kind of let my business slip. And then it's one of those things where, in hindsight, it's like, well, I stopped doing the things that I knew were good for me. I was stopped going to seminars and stopped progressing myself. I didn't really have any goal with myself physically wise, so I was less motivated to do that. Therefore, that rubs off on my clients. don't get me wrong, I still had clients in London. I still was fairly successful there as well, but definitely wasn't where I wanted to be. And then that then just like kept beating my mind. And then in answer to your question, now like 14 weeks sober, I realized that I was just never going to build the life I wanted to if I kept drinking, with the decisions that I was making, with the person that I knew I wanted to become. And it used to be so frustrating for me because I would just be, classic case, you do really well throughout the week. I have a few days we drink, but then drink, and then I would just, my head would just be in the bin. And then it would take me till like Tuesday, Wednesday, sometimes even Thursday to recover. And you just get stuck in that cycle. But that was me for, a year and a half, but I just didn't realize it at the time at all.
I know because I retrained as a personal trainer during COVID. So I started my training business at the worst possible time. And my clients I went into that job because I really wanted to do it. It had a profound impact on my own recovery. It was one of the many tools that I use, and I could never imagine doing that hungover because it is such a one-to-one thing. Being present, and we've all had bad trainers in the past where they're on their phone and things like that piss people off. But yeah, I mean, I think you probably already noticed the difference in terms of how you are with clients now, or not.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, I'd like to just say I've certainly never been one of those guys on my phone. That's one of my absolute pet hates when I see it in the gym. But it's certainly, for sure. Like, was I giving my best for my clients during that time? Like, no, I wasn't. I wasn't as passionate. I wasn't as enthusiastic. I think particularly when someone's then trying to motivate them, and obviously then that creates a cycle with yourself. And it's like, oh, I can't even do that. How am I going to motivate myself? And
it's really difficult. Like, I had it even in sobriety. So I had that same thought process when I was transitioning between publishing and doing that. I was also getting really stressed because I was doing 2 jobs. Moving a new house, new dog, etc. Blah blah blah. And I was eating a lot more. I was exercising less because of the stress with the extra job. And I was in that head cycle of, I'm not as motivated for my clients because I'm not motivated. I'm not motivated for myself. And I think that's the lesson that I got from it, is that, again, happiness is an inside job. If you're firing on all cylinders, that resonates with the people around you and clients and business.
Yeah, no, of course. And people are always intuitive. They'll always pick up on it. If you're not, even if you think you're trying to hide it, people will always notice. But just on what you just said there, I think for me, and I think we touched on it the other week as well, when people do dry Jan and stuff, and they're like, when I speak to them, it's like, I feel great, everything's good, my clarity's good, I feel amazing, and they just start drinking again. It's kind of, people are, I think it's so ingrained in us that it's just what we do, and feeling bad, and we just normalize that feeling, whereas actually, like, the you just feel, it's chalk and cheese. How much better I feel. Yes, I still have bad days. Yes, I still have all of the other stuff, but I'm in just such a better position to deal with any of life stresses without drinking, without alcohol. I just feel better in my body. My fitness has got way better, less kind of bloated, like just the things that everyone knows. But I think for me personally, just like I've just noticed my mindset is just a lot more balanced. I've now, that motivation that everyone talks about, like, the best thing that you can do is just, at least minimize the alcohol intake. Because when I speak to a lot of my clients, sometimes, Monday, Tuesday, whatever, and I can tell immediately when they walk in, shoulders are slightly down. I can tell on their postures, kind of, I know what they'll be doing the weekend, and and that's completely fine. It's everyone's decision, but I think it's being aware of these things. I think, like, for myself, I wasn't necessarily aware. We're all aware that the alcohol has its negative impacts, but it's just so ingrained in us that it's something that we do and normalized it. We don't necessarily see what's on the other side. Or what could be if we just did it, and it can get, and then because of that, it can could be seen as like maybe too much of an effort to give up, or people afraid of what people say and stuff. But actually, like, it's the best thing that I've ever done.
Looking at those 2 points that you made, one is normalizing. So when we say normalizing, we're sort of, I'm remembering the days when we'd all be messaging after a heavy night on a Sunday that might have ended up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So maybe this is Sunday evening after I've had a nap. saying, "Oh God, my hangover's terrible. I've got two pizzas on the go at the minute," and we're sort of joking and laughing, and the rhetoric that we're telling each other is, "Wow, what a great night that was! I'm completely dying here."
Yeah.
But now I'm sober. I'm looking back at those, going, "What a load of bollocks!" I mean, why would I want to feel so shit and then put all that shit food in me, just to feel like shit Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Um, it doesn't make any sense. So then the flip side is, and I think you just said it as well, with clients coming in on a Monday or Tuesday. I always had massive performance problems. This isn't me talking about sexual
Yeah.
performance, about client
I'm throwing my
performance
head red
in
immediately.
the
Yeah.
gym. And they could never lift as heavy a weight or anything. It's just alcohol in terms of performance for fitness. It just doesn't
It,
mix. It really doesn't
it
mix. If you
ages
want to get
any training goal for sure.
Yeah, and if you want to get good, you need to stick to a program. You need to have proper rest periods. You need to do 4 weeks on and have 1 week off, or taper down for that 1 week and let the body rest. I think when people are doing the play hard, work hard thing, which for some reason I always remember recruitment consultants saying it.
Yeah.
I don't know, is that sort of sales
It's the same
environment?
thing. I think
And
yeah.
it just winds me up. Like, people can manage to go to the gym 4 times a week and booze 3 times a week, but they burn out. At some point, they all burn out. And
And
you
they're not
just
getting
think,
as much from the sessions. They're just doing it to tick a box, right?
yeah, like you'll know as well. You can always spot. Like, this is what we're trained to do when we first start in the gym as PTs: is go up to the person on the cross trainer or on the treadmill and say, "Oh, would you like a free hour workout program?" Because the chances is, if you go to the gym and you use the cross trainer or you use a treadmill, you don't know what you're doing and you need someone to help you,
Yeah.
because there's no fun being on a cross trainer for an hour.
No one's having fun. No smiles.
No. So,
But
in terms of other things you've noticed, you're saying cognitive, mental health's improved, I'm guessing, as
yeah,
well.
just also well, like confidence as well. Like it's something that isn't. I think it's always. I think well, you say it in your book as well. It's always the case of people think what they're going to lose from gaining from not drinking alcohol is actually it's everything that you gain. And it's like when I really think about it, what does alcohol really give me? It just makes the conversation is not great. I can't remember anything. Feel crap. I overeat because it's a massive appetite stimulant.
Yep.
And I feel rubbish for like 3 days. Well, what do I gain from that? And I find it's something that I've always thought, maybe not consciously but subconsciously, that I just could never give up because like it was just so ingrained in something. I see my mates for beers, I go to football, have beers, or whatever. And I just thought it wasn't an option for me. So actually when I'm just kind of like, raising the standards for myself and being like, do you know what, like I want to like improve my life and go in another direction. It's not to say like I don't want to sound like preaching anyway, being like, oh, you give up, whatever. Like it's just for me anyway, like for me personally, with my poor mental health, regardless, alcohol just wasn't an option for me. And because of that, I kept sabotaging myself. Some people can drink alcohol and they're completely fine, and that's okay. But I think it's recognizing for myself that it wasn't working for me. It's a big moment for me. And then give me a lot of confidence and trust in myself. It's like, hey, I've done something I didn't think I could do, or I didn't think was kind of possible for me. And I think, and just in general, so my fitness has got just so much better, just the benefit from the better rest, the sleep. And just I found I'm just less irritable. I find I get like annoyed by like little things. Like when I say little things, I mean like if my housemate, like I don't know, came in and slammed the door too loudly, furious, like 0 to 100 immediately. Whereas now it's not like that at all. And I just feel it, just like I noticed big changes in the first few weeks, as you'd imagine, just as the alcohol kind of like leaves your system and stuff. But slowly, like now, like after every week, I've just kind of noticed like, hey, this is good. I'm feeling good. And this is my like new normal of waking up, not feeling drained, being more productive in my work, being more eager and keen to work. I just notice in the conversations that I'm having with people when I'm training people, I'm just more present, more happy. It's just yeah, no, I'm really happy with the progress that I made, and hope I can continue it.
And that's the great thing, isn't it? Like again, none of this has ever come from a point of preaching to other people whether they
Yeah,
want to give up booze and drugs.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
choice. I mean, I had people telling me that I needed to do it, but I didn't listen to anyone. I gave up when I realised that I needed to change my shit, and it was the same shit mental health. I was suicidally depressed, bankrupt, and everything else was going wrong. So at least there were a few clear clear indicators I probably couldn't drink. But I think would you say there were any points previously? I know you said with Thailand, but had you had any inclinations that giving up alcohol might have needed to have happened sooner than it did?
yeah. I absolutely. I had that after that football episode when I was on the street. My mate I went with, he wrote me like a letter, and he was like, you know, and I still remembering it now. Like, I'm so grateful for him to do that. This was
A
like,
letter.
he,
Oh,
yeah,
there, there.
he wrote
That's
me a letter.
impactful.
Yeah, it's coming from a place of love, like big love, and he was just saying that, you know, he was just explaining to me, like, you need to stop drinking. Like, you know, this is, you know, you can't keep doing this. And then I think I stopped drinking for maybe a month, maybe not even that, and then just came back. And just because in my head I was like, I still didn't really see it as that much of a problem, because I thought everyone else is doing this, but therefore but I didn't realize, like, after a big night, people weren't lying in bed too anxious to move as I was. I thought, oh well, maybe people, everyone's doing, you know, I didn't see that.
I thought everyone was like that. I
Yeah,
still find it weird that people like not everyone's like that. But I think we just
yeah,
have to accept that some people just can't drink like other people.
no. And then and then I had just like a lot of it as well. I've got very supportive mates who's very good, you know. And to be honest, like, they didn't, apart from that one incident, they didn't necessarily tell me to stop, but you know, they were it was kind of maybe mentioned. But for me, and it was obvious to me, particularly with like drugs and things. I was, you know, that would be me, you know, for a week, you know, down in the dumps, thinking everyone hates me, and whatever nonsense going through my head at the time. But it still didn't really click. The penny didn't drop. I was like, this is still fun. This is what, yeah, you know, people do. It never really like came across me, just because maybe I didn't, maybe I was scared to stop. I don't know. It just, it becomes a kind of a shit security blanket in a way, because even if you hate it and you're not enjoying it, it still does give you that little bit of respite for a bit. And it becomes a
Yeah, I
crutch,
think
right?
it is difficult at the end of the day. Like if you've got a whole group of people that's what you do in your friendship circle, then why would you be the black sheep of the group? Why would you want to do anything differently? Um, and I think that's what a lot of people do, to be fair.
Yeah.
Um, and then in terms of the point that you decided to go sober 14 weeks ago, what was it? What was the turning point there then?
I think it was like I've said earlier, when I literally just got to the point when well, actually what it was is I went to Amsterdam. It was a good place for it, right? And and it was just a fun. It wasn't like that ridiculous compared to what a lot of Amsterdam trips could be, but it's just, you know, like, a lot of sitting in bars, a lot of sitting in coffee shops, whatever. And I did go for like a really short run when I was in Amsterdam for like, it was like 6K, and I found it damn hard because obviously I hadn't slept and whatever else. So I was like, well, actually, like, I've just literally just come here to another country, and I've literally just sat and got fucked for like 3 days, which is fine, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what people
Pretty
want to.
much what every Brit does
Yeah,
on any holiday anywhere. They'll
yeah,
find the
yeah,
nearest Irish pub and just get shit faced
yeah,
and
and
then
that's
go home
fine.
again.
And that's what I've done. Like, and that's what I've done. And I've also just turned 30, so I don't regret doing any of that. And I think that was what my 20s are about. I want my 30s to all be about better, like, I don't want to say bettering myself, sounds so lame, but like doing my endurance sports and just like exploring stuff. And I was like, right, okay, if I was in Amsterdam and I didn't drink or whatever, what would I have done? Like, you know, okay, I've gone and explored more of the city. I've gone to, you know, see exhibits. I've gone and had nice food. I've gone and I'd have already done all this stuff. I'd have probably gone out to Amsterdam and I've seen more stuff. And it's like, do I want that? Or do I want just to like sit in a pub? And that was just like the penny just dropped for me. I was like, do you know what? I actually don't enjoy this anymore. Like the chat wasn't great between us. You know, nothing bad happened at all. It was just a realization in my head that I've been thinking for a while. It's like, I know that I can't keep doing this. if I want to achieve my goals in my business and achieve my goals physically, which I want to do this year, it's just not going to happen. And but what do I want more? Is that just leaning into that playing the long game.
I think it's important to highlight goals as well, because
Yeah.
I hated goals. I never had any goals for anything when I was drinking and drugging, and that
Yeah.
was part of a self-fulfilling cycle, that because you haven't got anything you're aiming for, then it doesn't really matter what you do at the weekends, because all you got to do is literally survive Monday to Friday, get your pay, and then do whatever the fuck you want with it. But then suddenly in sobriety, I've got goals, I've got business goals, life goals, and you wake up with passion and purpose. And I know that I can't drink alcohol, I'm allergic to it. Same with drugs. And the fact is, I don't want to lose progress on everything else that I'm excited to do. And I think that's a big part of trying to create leverage in your life, to have enough reasons not to drink. It's a bit of a life coaching term, but I think leverage is really important. So you're 14 weeks in, which is brilliant, and things only get bigger and better. People say, "Oh, just one day at a time," but you keep doing just one day at a time, and then a few years in, you look back and you think, "I've done all that in 2 years or whatever," compared to 2 years of going to the pub every weekend and not doing anything. It's mind blowing.
That's the thing, and I got to the point where this stuff is just keeping me the same. So I've been in a state of frustration for the last 2-3 years, and I haven't feel I've progressed. And when I was like, I've just turned 30, I was like, okay, I can't keep doing this. do you know what I mean? Like, again, it's a personal thing, right? Some people will find it, but I just know for me myself, I just saw my life almost in like a kind of a crossroads. Like, right, I either keep doing this, and short term, okay, maybe I'm still enjoying it. Maybe, I don't think I was. And that was the thing as well for me. It's like, when I've tried to stop before, I've always gone into scenarios and like really wanted it and really felt I was like having to resist. Whereas like when I stopped smoking, don't get me wrong, I was never like a big smoker, but I have a few cigarettes or whatever on a night out. But now when I look at someone smoking, I don't want it at all. And I have the same thing with alcohol now, because it's kind of like, I just know that that's not going to add any value to my life, and it's only going to bring me backwards, which again, has been a little bit of a penny flip, and that took me a few weeks to get to. Immersing myself in your book and other literature has been really, really helpful. But I'm just looking forward to seeing what this year will bring now.
And that's the exciting thing, isn't it? Actually looking forward to the progression you can do, not just in sobriety, but that gives you the time and energy to do everything and anything else that you want as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just thank you for writing your book, because it got me really, just helped me so much.
And FYI, I hadn't set that up.
Yeah.
I was thinking, you know what, I'm not going to plug my book for this one, but it's on the
I did it for you,
YouTube
easy
clips anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's how we originally got in contact, wasn't it? I think you've got your own podcast, and you'd read the book, and yeah, it's just good, because at the end of the day, I think books are quite powerful when you can relate. People write in different styles, and I had a lot of books when I was getting sober that a lot of pennies dropped. And I think at different points of your life, books are the best return on investment. I mean, they've, like some of the Eckhart Tolle books that I've read. I don't know, did you read any of those? I think
I tried to read The Power Now. I'm going to try again.
It's quite difficult.
Yeah, I didn't get far into it, but it's one of those like books you should read probably. Or
it took me so many attempts to begin with, because it's different set of wording that he uses that
I just couldn't read it.
You use the Audible's a lot easier.
Okay.
And he's got a really soothing voice, so it doubles up as a sleep hypnosis tape. But it's been great having you on. Thanks for having me on your podcast the other week. And yeah, it'd just be great to see how your journey develops and everything you get up to and all the things that you're doing. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Cheers. And that's the end of this episode.